It's known as being flaky. Now, so I got to start all over again.
All right.
So welcome. As I was describing, I'm going back through my history this week, and I can still remember 1978, sitting in a car on the way from Montgomery, Alabama to Mobile, Alabama, with a friend who was a brand new associate, and he put a tape of Catherine Ponder on. Now, I was raised in a very fundamentalist church. I had the typical progress, when you go to college you become agnostic, not quite atheistic, but at least agnostic. And I didn't know. And I can remember sitting in church thinking, this can't be true. Everybody's going to hell just because they don't heard this name. And it made no sense to me that a God of love would mess people up. And so when I heard that message from Catherine Ponder, it was like, that's it. That's where I want to go. So that started my journey, and it was our journey because Madeline and I had been married. We were living in Montgomery, Alabama at that time. And we started the search. And literally after thousands of books, and some of those books are in the library here now, but we gave at least, 3/4 of the library away. And after reading all those books, and we spent thousands, literally, I said hundreds, and she corrected it because she writes the checks. She said, you spent thousands of dollars on seminars and deals, okay? And yet, it didn't progress or create what I wanted, which was happiness, joy, and peace in my soul. And so I realized at some point in time that it was really a spiritual quest. And in that spiritual quest, that was the answer for me. So all I can do is share that answer for me. All I can do is share what I have been through. Now, I do jump on things. Some of you, we need to do this, we need to do that. Well, I did that 15 years ago, it didn't work. Or, so I do have those biases, and I admit that to you. And it's really, really focused on the spiritual path. And Jesus pretty well delineated the spiritual path by saying, go into the closet, close the door, which means silence, meditation, not open prayer, silence, and meditation, and hang out with a group of people that think the same way. And I'm going to talk about that in a conversation we call entrainment. And then study the right things, study truth, okay? Because it's important, number one, to be silent and allow Spirit to connect with us directly. It's important to hang around people that think the same way. It's also important to study things that are appropriate for the truth. And then it's also learning to share resources and understand we're in a giving and receiving universe. And as we give, we receive, and as we receive, we give. So those are basic spiritual principles, and they're spiritual principles that I have found for me are working most of the time because I still haven't learned how to walk on water. And all I'm sharing with you is my beliefs and my attitudes. So, and take them, whatever you choose to, but make sure you check them for yourself. Now, the Course in Miracles. Now, let me go in first. I'm going to pull all this stuff. I got all kinds of stuff here. Okay? And the idea I want to share with you is that everything is at a rate of vibration. And that vibration is a natural vibration for everything. We know that all of our organs in our body have their own natural vibration frequency. So when we go into the disease or something, that organ is not at the right, correct vibration. So if we can get it into alignment with the normal vibration, things heal. Now, our minds and our hearts are vibratory elements. They are transmitting and receiving all the time. And those energies that are at a high rate of vibration, or a high rate of frequency, if you will, and they're very, very subtle. So it's up to us to align with them. There's a thing called entrainment. Entrainment is one of those fancy words, and it's called the entrainment theory. Basically, it's sympathetic vibration. Things that are the same vibration attract to each other. So if I have a vibration of XYZ, then vibration of XYZ show up in my life and affairs. And it's very, very subtle, but it's been proven over and over again. Quantum physics is getting into all that stuff. But the word entrainment means I vibrate at a certain frequency, and as those frequencies go out into the universe, I then attract from the universe those things at which I'm vibrating. Everybody get it? Now, to me, after all this search for all these cotton-picking years and following, all these, everybody's got a deal, everybody's got, we've been looking for the final answer. Anybody familiar with that? If I go to this seminar, it'll give it to me. Or if I do this meditation, it's the end that you get there. But the truth is, it's a lifelong process. And it's a process of learning what works for me. It's one of the reasons, God bless us, it's really wonderful to have 4 or 5 people doing meditations on Sunday. Anybody agree with that? Because Donald brings in a totally different idea than Valerie does. And Larry brings in music and chants, okay? And Terry brings in her wonderful background in unity. So we have an opportunity to look at different vibrations. And the idea is there for each one of us to pick a vibration that works for us. Now, here's the key. Once you pick a vibration, you have to do it. Everybody got that? It's known as discipleships. Now, where I want to go with this is, at the face center in our brain, the pineal area, we always make a choice. And we covered 12 powers about a year ago. But there's a choice to go this way or a choice to go that way. Okay? And it's an either or. So it's either the spiritual way or the world's way. So I either vibrate over here or I vibrate over here. Everybody got that? And the sympathetic vibration is a fact. So when we vibrate at anger, upset, revenge, I was going to say piss off, but I shouldn't do that.
Woe is me.
Woe is me. I'm the victim.
I tried so hard.
I tried, and it really didn't work, and it was their fault. So when we vibrate at that level, we attract that conversation into our life. And then we wonder how we're victimized. How come people come along and do this to me? Or how come I had that? Or this occurred? Because I was vibrating at a level of sympathetic vibration that attracted the universe of those things into my life. You see, here's the key. Everybody ready? You are the center of the universe. I'll say it again. You are the center of the universe. I'll say it again. You are the center of the universe. You're going to say it along with me.
I am.
I am, yeah. Okay? So, and the idea of entrainment is inviting the sympathetic vibrations into our life. Now, I can remember thinking that it's okay once in a while to be angry. And I can remember thinking once in a while it's okay to seek revenge or I'm going to get that SOB or whatever. Especially, I talked last week that I was talking to, we were going to talk about love and all there is love. And then I talked about the guy tailgating me on the way in. And I didn't feel love. Had another one. Okay, so we have these constant experiences of making a choice which vibration we choose to be at. Okay? We're finding healing takes place. Physical healing takes place when we invite those vibrations in. I can remember, and all I can do is talk about myself. I'm trying not to, but it keeps coming up. I can remember sitting in the hospital. I don't know why I'm sharing this with you. Anyway, I had been diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and they told me I had a tumor the size of my fist in my colon. So I can remember sitting in the hospital, ready to go under, and I had a group of people, there were 5 or 6 people that surrounded me, and they were in the anesthesia room, and they prayed with me as I went in. Can you imagine that? And I remember thinking, no, God is the healer here. Because I had been told if I didn't do this, I wouldn't last another 6 months. If I didn't do that, I was this and that. There was all these things. And that was 2002. Would you agree? I lived way past that 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay? And it wasn't me. It wasn't anything I did. It was the belief and deciding to vibrate at the level of the Christ. Because each one of us is the center of the universe as the Christ. And it's our choice which vibration we choose. And it's so easy to get off track. I can do it just like that. Okay? What do you mean? So they are subtle energies. Okay? Really, there's 2 basic choices we have. To vibrate at the Christ energy or to vibrate at the world's energy. And each of those vibrations has its own distinct outcome. Okay? And I believe that's what simple words that Jesus was trying to tell us. Now, here's what I really want to share with you. After 30 years, 40 years of studying all the stuff, going through all the money, studying all the different religions, and being, folks, both of us are certified in this and that and the other thing, and doctorate in this and all this kind of stuff. It comes down to simply, where do I vibrate? And that's it. The whole message is that simple. And we want to make it complicated. And what I'm saying is, today is, let's uncomplicate it and start looking at what's true. And the truth is, you are the center of the universe. You're a child of God. You're a representation of the Christ. And you are the Christ embodied in the physical world, here to do God's work. And you remember we've talked that God doesn't have hands and feet, but you're his hands and feet. And we've each been imbued with divine intelligence, guidance, harmony, and it's in that process of vibrating and believing and making the connection. So it's really not learning, it's really not figuring it out, it's not being more educated, it's simply giving it up and knowing who we are. And it's kind of like it's going back to principles, okay? I was looking at, I don't have one. I'm going to go back and get it. Say hello, hi. Whatever. As you know, I go over to McDonald's for breakfast in the morning. And I was reading this wonderful brochure we have. Anybody read it?
Oh, yeah.
Please read it. Take 10 of them home and just leave them around somewhere. Give them to your neighbors, whatever. Yeah, I did leave one on the table at McDonald's when I left this morning, okay? But it's back to basics. The simplicity of our message is amazing. And we are in a world that's forgotten it. I mean, that's the issue. We have forgotten who we are. So this is what unity teaches. We all have an innate capacity to know God through direct, let me say that, direct experience. Which means you are an integral part of God. Right there, right now. Okay? It's fascinating. Then it goes on, the Christ is that part of God that is in every person. Hello? That's all I have to know. And the simplicity of it has overwhelmed me this week. It's like, I was writing this article and it wasn't cool. It wasn't, I was just going back. I kept thinking, we need to do something else. It kept coming out. The next 2 or 3 sentences came out. Then it says, there is a spark of divinity within all people, just as there was in Jesus. So again, the process is, Jesus is our model. So and he said this, what he did, we can do. I'm still figuring out how to walk on water, but we're going to get there, okay? And I'm saying that funnily, but what is the possibility of each of us as a human being? And what has clouded us from being capable of doing that is the world's energy that we have been vibrating at. Okay? It's like the church. I told you last week I think it's going to cost, our projected costs for our new building are $1 million. And that scares people. Oh my God, where's that going to come from? Well, folks, if you live in the past of what's happened in the past, there's no way. But in God's world, miracles come from where? They just come out of nowhere, the ethers. Love, yeah. But they don't come from back there. So if we live back there, how can we create here? All right? And that was another awareness for me this morning, because part of the board's meeting this Thursday, and one of the conversations I want to bring up is, okay, where's $1 million coming from? Because we got $200,000 to start, okay? So that leaves us about $800,000. Big number, yes? But in God's world, what's possible? Everything, anything. So can we move into that new church, which is our intention, debt-free? Absolutely. So everybody take a deep breath. Do you feel it? There's kind of like that settling, okay? So anyway, we need to go on here. Guess what? Number 3 is prayer works. Now, here's a qualification I want to share with you. Jesus said that asking, or I'm going to paraphrase stuff, but he said that we don't need to ask. He said, don't worry. Don't take any thought. which means don't think about it. True? If you want me to find the scripture, I'll do it. But basically, in the Beatitudes, it says take no thought, which means stop thinking. So prayer is not asking. Everybody got it? Because we're told, you already, if God is God and God is who is all-knowing, for goodness sakes, does he know or she know or it know what we need? Yes. So what is prayer? Prayer is simple connection with Spirit, which is vibrating at the level of divinity, which means forgetting about all the stuff here. And if it takes 20 minutes a day, 20 minutes morning and evening, which is what century prayer suggests, that's prayer. It's just simply connecting. And we don't have to ask. We don't have to ask. Things start happening spontaneously. Pat's got to get into this one.
God's first language is silence.
Yes.
Everything else is a bad translation.
Yeah. Do you hear it? And so we don't need fancy stuff. And we don't need. What we need is a direct connection with Spirit or divinity or God or Source or whatever you choose to call it. Okay? So prayer.
Say it's dropping out of the cloud of thoughts and feelings.
And
that's the same thing.
See, that's a metaphor for that idea. Just leaving it behind and knowing I am the Father, no matter what. No matter what. Now, the property down there, 3.5 acres or 3.1 acres, would you agree that's a miracle? That thing left twice, I think, and then it showed up again and I got a call and, oh yeah, we're going to go. And then, within a week, Tommy signed the papers back in December, and it was an absolute miracle that it was there. It's worth, according to the city right now, $270,000. We paid actually $235,000 when we factor all the costs in. Good deal? Yeah. Because property here is going higher and higher and higher. We are in the middle of the expansion in Austin, right? But everybody got that? See, what we're attempting to do as a spiritual community is create a spiritual path. And that's why I've been excited about the centering prayer idea that Pat's bringing in. And it's an idea of centering prayer, but it's a meditation. It's a standard process. It's taught everywhere. But one of the reasons that we brought centering prayer in is it gives you a path to work on, and it gives you heads up on certain things that will occur. Okay? Next, heaven is not a place but a state of consciousness. Simple. In other words, it's how we think and what vibration we operate at. It's like a tuning fork. It's like this. Okay, everybody, take a minute. Feel it. You feel how the vibrations in the room. And see, this room right now is full of vibrations. Each of your heart is bringing out the vibration. And I understand that's tuned to the heart chakra. So you are vibrating now with the heart energies. And that's what we have to do as a spiritual community, is know that I and the Father are one. Okay? We are here to set a positive example and be a role model. We are here to make the world a better place. And I really, our missions is to empower each other to become spirit. Divinity, if you will. So we as a community are doing that. Okay? And I acknowledge you for that. Faith is knowing, and I want to go into faith. I was looking at the word hope. And hope is always based upon what I know. So hope is looking at the past and hoping that it works in the future. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather not hope on anything from my past. So faith is belief in a miracle out there. See, if I'm in hope, and this is interesting to me, and Matt and I have addressed this whole idea of hope. Hope is always based upon what I know or what I think I know. A miracle, the future can be based upon a miracle, which is faith. And faith is belief in things not seen. So it's not seen. It's not there. You can't put your hands on it, but you know. So that's why we're saying now the time for learning is finished. The time for knowing is here. And in our own personal lives, each of us. I know some of you are having amazing miracles, or you're having miracles and going to have miracles. Really. One of the blessings of doing what we do is we get calls and people say, you know what? This occurred, or this healing occurred, or my Aunt Susie is now talking to me, or, all the family kind of stuff. And that's a blessing. Then when Terry prays over the box and we send that box stuff into Silent Unity, miracles occur. But miracles don't occur on the past, they occur here because of faith. And there's a whole group of people up there in Unity Village holding the faith for us. Okay? So I'll go on. I got some more to share here. But it really fascinated me because I really hadn't taken the time to read this. So take 10 of these home, pass them out, but read this back part. Okay? Next. Faith is knowing you are Christ. Miracles come from faith and engaging the heart. Again, we've been talking a lot about the heart and how the heart energy precedes the mind. And when we deal in the heart is the center of spirit as far as we know. And the mind is the center of ego. So it's important that we integrate the heart with the mind so the heart becomes wholehearted with the mind and really starts running the mind instead of the ego running the mind. If that makes sense. Really, I try to boil this stuff down so it makes sense. So even somebody like me can understand it. Okay? So I do want to share with you. Simple. Even back into Scripture. And here is the Scripture. Matthew 6:33. So what's the key to life? Everybody ready? Seek ye first the kingdom of God, heaven, and his righteousness. And where's the kingdom of heaven? Within. Where's within? Within you. Okay? So you don't have to it's not out there. I don't have to go running around figuring out the latest guru or who to do what. All I have to do is go within. And then it says, and all these things shall be added unto you. Now, I'm going to add without struggle, which is what I like. That's what I'm looking for, yes. In other words, why not have things spontaneously materialize? Be therefore not anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient in the day of its own error. So, again, not worried. So the idea is to vibrate at the level of spirit all the time in my conversation in all ways. And the rest of it occurs spontaneously. I also need to go into here. Course of Miracles, yesterday morning, just happened to be in line with what I was thinking. I will tell you, it's amazing how miracles occur. Okay, because this came up. And I was thinking about this idea of whatever we vibrate at. And vibration is our perception. And it says here, perception is a choice of what you want yourself to be. Should I say that again? It was like, oh, okay. Perception, or what you perceive yourself to be, is a choice of what you want yourself to be. Okay? It's like, I think it was Pat or somebody this week came up with, again, talking about separate, we're not separate. But the biggest impediment to believing in separation is believing in separation. See, our beliefs make things so. Then it goes on and says, except you, or I say, so what do you be? The world you want to live in, the state in which you think your mind will be content and satisfied. It chooses where you think your safety lies. Anybody familiar with security? Okay? At your decision, it reveals yourself to you as you would have you be. So you are the sculptor of our own life. Then it goes on and says, and always it is faithful to your purpose from which it never separates. So your perception of yourself is what we create, and then we justify why we're in this position. So the truth is, we can change anything anytime. We can heal things. It takes time. It sometimes takes some prayer work. That's one reason we have the prayer chapels, because they support us in the beliefs we're working toward. Knowing that God is always present. And Larry always pulls me aside and says, it's time to pray. Okay. Because I need that. I need somebody to take my hand and see it for me. So that's why this community is created the way it is. Okay? Got one more to share with you. We got to bring Charles Fillmore. Joel Goldsmith would be a good one to bring in. Again, this is going to be right on faith. You ready? Faith is assurance of things hoped for. When there has been an aspiration of reaching out for the spiritual life, the faith faculty becomes active in consciousness. So here's kind of like where I want to end. We have to make the decision. In other words, it's something we have to consciously say, here's what I want. Okay? And once we do that and then act on it, in other words, it doesn't say I'm going to be spiritual and then you don't do anything. There's a commitment to prayer work, meditation, reading, being here on Sundays, if I can use that. That's not necessary to tell you the truth, but somehow be in like-minded people's auras so we can pick up that energy. Then it goes on and says, the prayer of supplication is impotent, the prayer of affirmation is immediately effective. What that means is we don't ask God for things, we give thanks that these things have occurred. And when we make that switch, it says, is immediately perfected. And so it is. Thank you, Father, Mother God, and joy. Thank you, I love you. I'm done.